We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first rating show here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. We are, for the second consecutive year, brought to you by Horizon Finance Group. Pommy is back for season 2 of the ratings. No, you've been on the ratings for more than a season. Season and a half.
He's forgotten. I think I'm a fourth-year player now, Terry. I'm ready to go into the leadership group because we had 2 years of you and me saying next.
Oh, yeah.
And then halfway through year 2, we changed it to this. We perfected it last year. And there's another change in year 4. Hey, tell you what, the club could learn off you and me because every year we get a little bit better.
Every year we do get a little bit better. Why is that, Pom? What do we focus on?
Success, Terry. Perfection. If you strive to perfection, you may never attain it, but you will get better.
Strive for perfection, settle for excellence.
Hey, mate. I'd just settle for a little bit better tomorrow than what I was today. If I could do that, we'll be right.
In a really weird way. I mean, I'm actually happy that we're on this stream right now. It brings me joy. I've been more angry every morning since Thursday night. Like more and more angry. Like the thought of them, not just the players, like the collective, the thought of them makes me sick, to be blunt. Like I'm sickened by the whole thing. I'm sickened by the performance. I'm sickened by the replay. I'm sickened by membership day being cancelled the next day. I'm sickened that they even thought to book membership day on SCN the day after round 1, like the arrogance. It's just all vomit at the moment. I can't stop vomiting on myself.
I'd love to say I share your sentiment. I was quite over it very quickly. And new year, new me. I'm just trying to work out how to fix it. And I've either given up, right? This is where my mental state is. I've either completely given up. This is me in the death throes of ending the relationship. I'm just plowing on until she says it's over. Or I've gone away silently and I'm just going to keep chipping away. But I think the important thing on this show is we give them a fair report, right? Fair report, and we hold them accountable via what we know, not speculation, because there's obviously a lot of speculation that goes with these things. This is just basically the proper way you'd review a game. I think, in my opinion, the proper way. Yeah. No feeling, just data.
Yeah. So can you, for those of you who are new to the ratings show, welcome. For those of you who have been here before and you've watched it since the beginning, good to see you back. Do us a favor, send this stream to a friend, invite a friend, bring them along for the ride. Pommy, what is the difference, if anything, this year with the way we're doing the ratings or the algorithm? Like any updates, evolutions? Like what can we expect this season from the rating show?
An amazing difference. So shout out to a good couple of my mates, Nick and Colin over in the UK, data analysts. Some big companies, we've worked on this. I've shown them the vision and wanted to make it harder. So the first thing you'll notice is it's almost now impossible to get a 10, right? And that was something I wanted. And the algorithm now, for a 10, we are talking a generational game, last 10 years in that position. Because I'm a firm believer, you can never be 10 out of 10. If you are, you're Jesus himself. Right, so do you know what I mean? You're perfect. So that's the main one. The other one is we've changed some of the graphics, so it's a little bit easy to understand. We got rid of the graph. We've now got a flow chart. We've got a nice little row chart for you to look at. So what that will show you is the top 20% of players in that role in the last 10 games. Specifically, it focuses on 10 game blocks of the top 20% in the league. So you'll be able to see that, and that'll be an orange color, and then you'll see the blue color, and that'll just show you 10 stats that the data really likes, that are cornerstones, if you will, anchors, to use Adam Uze's words.
Yeah. Okay. Chat, if you ever need an explanation throughout the show, if something's not making sense, let us know in the chat. we're happy to explain it. Let's get started. Let's get started because I am very curious to see how it all plays out.
For those who like low numbers, this algorithm is incredibly harsh as well now. It's probably the harshest one we've ever had.
So, again, we'll start. These are the stats. We'll go through them. The next slide after this will be the official rating from this show. So those of you playing along at home, feel free to guess what you think the rating will be between 0 and 10. Pommy, let's talk about Jack Silvani. It might be one of the few times we smile about a player and his performance on Thursday night.
Yes, so an incredible, difficult game for Jack because it's his first official game in his new role. You'll see there the AFL rating of 15.6. That's quite a healthy rating for a player that is playing predominantly in the key position, predominantly in the third tall. And then for some reason, he was moved forward when the game was already dead and kicked a goal. But Jack did incredibly well, He was tight to his opponent. He didn't fly up and spoil his own players. And he was really strong at playing on whoever's man he was assigned to. And you can see with Jack, his heat map, incredibly healthy. He was one of the few players that looked to go off his man and attack when Carlton were deep in Richmond's defensive 50 as well, where quite a few of Carlton players resorted to following Tom Lynch, namely Nick Haynes and Jacob Wheaterin. So he really did try and stretch the play without the ball as well. So it was a very solid return from Jack, and smiles all round, wasn't it, really? Good to see him.
Yeah. Can you explain in these bar graphs? So you've got an orange bar, and then beneath the orange bar, you've got I don't know, is that blue or black? What's that saying?
Okay, so the orange is the top 20% of players that have played a role similar to him with a focus on their last 10 games, disregarding their worst games. So effectively 10 good games. And if they have a bad game in there, it gets disregarded. If they have 2 bad games, 1 counts. The blue is him today. Today. And as this season will go on, there will be a green one, which will be the player this year, him, and the top 20%.
Okay. So we want the blue to be pushing ahead of the orange, in theory. And that's a good marker.
Depending on how that defender was working, it will change. So, like, obviously there you've got intercept marks. Some weeks, Jack might be playing just a pure lockdown role. And then that's when we want the contested marks to be bigger than the orange. But then the intercept marks would be happier to be smaller than the orange. But you can see with Jack, that's kind of worked. His intercept marks less than what we'd expect, but his marks and contested marks a lot higher. So you can see here just by looking at these stats, 1%ers are better, spoils are better. This was a defensive role. So hopefully it'll help you understand the different types of roles as well for defenders.
Okay, great. So a 15.6 for Jack. I thought one of the few that had the will to compete and do the basics at the very basic level, which it would be nice to see 20 other of his teammates have the same desire to compete for 4 quarters. So Jack got a 7.5 for his game. I think a few of you are pretty much on the money there. Let's move along to Jacob Wheaterin. AFL rating of 17.3. Very interesting heat map. Seems to be. Is this a sign of an evolved role?
Well, it's a sign of Carlton really playing the real high up forward press that Voss likes to play. And if anyone's watched football this week, you'll see some teams have come massively unstuck under this. St Kilda came massively unstuck. Voss likes to flood forward half with his defenders, and teams that can kick over the top genuinely have great success. Wheaterin here was doing a lot of time defending their kick-ins, incidentally. And you'll see here that Jacob just doing Jacob things. You can see the AFL rating really likes his game. 15 plus for a defender, pretty good. Jack was in that mold as well. And then we can see here, you saw Jack, very little intercept marks, intercept possessions. Here, Jack allowed Jacob to be a little bit more ostentatious and peel off his man and attack the game a little bit. And you can see here, like most intercept defenders, very little on the tackle front, but incredibly good on the offensive stuff. So he was played really to try and ping that. Big issue with Jacob's game, though. Adam Uze quickly worked it out. And in the second quarter, we saw Tom Lynch never leave the goal square for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It was the first time he was tracked to leave 10 meters from the goal square, which pulled Jacob away from the play and allowed them to get a bit of consistency inside 50. That is something for the coaches to look at, because Jacob is good, but he's not that good. He can't possibly stop that. That's where you're looking at Nick Haynes, Mitch McGovern, to talk and say, we need to free our boy up here.
Yeah. So he gets an 8.1. So there's another layer to the story of the ratings this year. You can get any decimal between 0 and 10. Is that right?
Our decimals work in decimals of up to 25 now.
So in theory, you could get an 8.125.
We could do, yeah. We round it up to one decimal place for you guys and girls, but now the algorithm really spits out a big number, because his points allocation is very, very harsh now until you get above AFL average.
Okay. So that's Jacob. They are two positive scores, I would say. Then we move along. We get to Mitch McGovern, and we start to see a little bit of a shift already in that bar graph. So what do we say about Mitch's game?
Well, we can see here that already the algorithm would look at this, and this is one of the ones where you've got to use your brain here a little bit, and the algorithm couldn't tell you what his role was. So the algorithm spits out intercept 1, defending key, loose key. This one here, the algorithm was like, Tom, do you want to help me out? And that's kind of Mitch McGovern's game. What was he? So you can see the AFL rating straight away. Different system to ours. Half as good as Jack. Half as good as Jacob. It doesn't like it. You can see here, people are talking about the efficiency. So traditionally, efficiency in key defenders, we're looking at turnovers. And you can see with the top stat there, that's how many disposals you have until you make a turnover. Already, Mitch is in the danger zone. The orange, it's the first time we've seen an orange encompass the blue at the top. The intercept possessions were high, but this is where you're expecting your best ball users. And unfortunately for Mitch, this guy was putting pressure on every player, and he had a very low kicking danger difficulty as well. He actually took safe kicks on and turned them over. So a big concern for the Blues. And what is even more scary, genuinely, when these players turn it over, go down to the third bar, pressure acts. We'd usually see these quite high, because generally these players, when they make a mistake, will be there to fix it. He wasn't. So you can see here, not what we'd expect from Mitch McGovern.
Go down to the third. You mean third bar from the bottom?
Yeah, so you'll see there's 1%ers, spoils, PAs. You see the orange there. We would be expecting him to have a lot of blue, almost mirroring the orange, because of the small kicks and handballs errors. He should be there to fix it.
Yeah, watching him under pressure was bizarre. I mean, a lot of them, like I said the other day, there was like a little spot fire, and then the spots spread, and it became like the plague, and then it was just encapsulated Mitch kicking the ball off the ground when Chera's right next to him. And you just, if it's happening to Mitch McGovern, then what hope do we have of the younger players being able to deal with it? So that was a disappointing performance. I thought he's way better than that. Like it's just so far beyond his capabilities, and yeah, he gets a 4.4. Wow.
So remember, 6 is where we're looking. 6 is the top 40% of the league. So if you get a red, you're in strife.
Yeah. All right. Then we go to Nick Haynes. Made his debut for the club. Yeah, it was tough, wasn't it? It was a tough watch at times. I can guarantee he will only be better. I don't think you can get worse than that.
You can see AFL ratings, considering that AFL ratings as well protects you
Yeah.
because it only focuses on games played, not games missed and games seen out. That's a concern. Now you can see here the difference. McGovern and Haynes, very similar heat maps. This guy here, some shocking stats already. Loss percentage, didn't win a one-on-one all day. Right? And then we also see the spoils. He kept going for marking contests, which means he's lost them. Genuinely, you see them come quite high when they've got high one-on-one losing percentage. Then you look at this, intercept marks, hardly any. Then contested marks, incredibly poor as well. This was probably as bad of a game as you can get. And this is a very interesting one because the algorithm looks at this and it says you've got too many toes in the back line if you're wanting to play with the top 8. So that's genuinely scary. Genuinely scary.
Yeah, it was tough. Petra wrote a comment here. I spoke to a Giants fan who said to me, Haynes rarely dropped marks like that and rarely fumbled. He joked with me, what have you done to him? I thought the exact same thing. I thought his ability to read the flight of the ball was fine, but when it came to executing the mark, the actual mark and the actual kick and the actual handball, it's the plague is the only way I can describe how I watched him play. Like, I really rate him, and I hope it only gets better from here, because is the idea that the best of Nick Haynes allows Jacob Wiedering to play in the role that we saw him playing?
Well, you actually found the protection was Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack is that. But then looking at our forward line, Jack might have to go there. So it's a fascinating one. I mean, I am of the belief from everything I've seen in preseason, you can't play all of them. You can't play all of them. Like, it needs to be 3 max.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Nick gets a 3.5 for his game. And then we get to Adam Saad, 15.1 as per the AFL ratings. How did you summarize his game?
So this is where now you're starting to see the massive shift from my ratings to their ratings. So our ratings are looking for impact, and we'll get on to where you look at the midfielders of what we mean by impact. But Saad, this was an interesting game because you can see a lot of blues in the areas that we would imagine would be attributed to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at Saad's skill sets. But Saad, again, getting bogged down with a lot of the rudimentary stuff that someone shouldn't do. Do you know what I mean? Shouldn't do. And he often finds himself not the outlet ball, the interim ball. And you can see here, that's a very weird heat map. If you looked at someone else, like, say, a Jack Sinclair when he plays hardback, or you look at a Rory Laird, or a primary ball user who's got a weapon that's a POD. Very interesting for Saad, because I feel like Saad, he's definitely never played to his strengths for this football club. And this game proved it.
Yeah, that's a sentiment that's been shared for years now. Is that the case, or are we overrating Saad? And is Saad not the player that we thought he was?
I don't think so, because, you know, Essendon's big issue was that he doesn't defend. And Carlton have almost done what I think it was Petra said about Nick Haynes. We've already proved Nick Haynes does spill marks. He's only been at the club 5 minutes. He's only just had his first latte. Well, Saad has become more of a lockdown defender than he ever did at Gold Coast or here. And that's a real sadness, because if you look at how all the other teams are playing, Saad should be in the prime of his career now, should be enjoying his life, because
Absolutely
should be at the outlet ball.
Yeah. So is that a coaching breakdown? Are we? Do you think we're coaching him wrong?
When we get onto the small forwards and you look at their heat maps, we'll definitely see now it's no longer, Durden has no discipline. These are definitely coaching directives. I mean, obviously he's not helped. Jacob Wiedering a few times blazed handballs that would have hit targets, But the problem was, if you actually watch the passage of play, Sard's deviated his run back into trouble to collect said handball, as opposed to being allowed to run in space. If you watch James Sicily kick to Impey, if he misses him, he still kicks in his direction so he can just keep on running. Carlton, it's always 2 meters slightly off, and Sard's probably a victim of that quite often with our handballs. It's either loopy so he gets hit, or he's got to deviate, and it's always quick to run in a straight line. If you're zigzagging, you're screwed.
Yeah, that's true. So Sardi gets a 5.8. Again, I think a lot of you were on the money there. Then we move along. We get to Lockie Cowan, youngster looking to hopefully break out. If you were watching throughout the preseason, what did he do on Thursday night? How did his game come up?
This is insane. If you remember Mitch McGovern, and then you look at Lockie Cowan, huge difference. Where their heat maps are, it's in an offensive position. You look at his intercept marks, you look at his intercept possessions, all higher than Mitch McGovern and all higher than what we would consider the fourth defender in there. And he was an attacking threat. And this is someone that probably will look and go, why is Haynes getting a responsible role when I could maybe do this? Because he did use the ball well. The meters gained is a big one as well per disposal, with his efficiency as well that he used in the first half particularly. It's a shame. 1%ers are high as well. So we've probably got, this is the first time since a long time, we've got a guy that can lock down but can also be an attacking threat. So it's going to be fascinating how Carlton look to utilise him, because there's a lot of Nick Blakey year one in Lockie Cowan at the minute, and it feels like he needs more of a role.
Yeah. What would you do with his role? What's the ideal role?
I think the backline needs a huge tidy up, and to me, I think it should be Jack Silvani in the key position to allow Wheater in to be free, playing him at centre half back. Lockie Cowan's the third, and then you've got Boyd, you've got Sard, and go smaller. And that's Voss says he wants speed and power from the back half of the ground. Well, you don't play speed and power from the back half of the ground with 4 medium-sized toes. So I would personally go smaller and make them use the ball.
Right. So a 6.2 for Lockie Cowan.
So as good as that game is, still below the AFL median.
Yeah. Then we get to Oliver, young Oliver. AFL rating 8.7. There's certain moments in a player's game that really help or hinder. And I think Ollie had a big moment that helped his reputation. I mean, Ollie's sadly at times become a little bit of a whipping boy, I would say, for Carlton. People have questioned his toughness and, he's sort of, not his work rate, but just his ability to get pushed off the ball and not be hard enough and tough enough. Well, I think he just put that one to bed with that one moment. I didn't mind what I saw from Ollie from a work rate and commitment perspective.
It's fascinating. The only player on the ground to have 100% handball efficiency.
Really?
64 with his kicks. And it's really interesting as well. One of 2 players on the ground, both were Carlton, who had contested handball receives. One being Cripps and him being the other. So let that sink in. This guy is meant to be a halfback that's been played loose. Yeah. Started his life in the back pocket, as you can see. Right? So he spent a lot of time in the back pocket. Now, if you go back and remember a young man called Cade Simpson, how many times did he get handballed, contested? Never. That's not the caper of his actual role. So Ollie, from a statistical point of view, yes, it's not a game that we're probably going to write home and change lives. AFL average for the rebound 50s, below AFL average for intercept possessions. Oh, for the first time in a long time, though, he was over the AFL meters gained, which is very important for his position. Intercept marks, quite funny. He took one contested mark that was an intercept mark that was actually in front of Jacob Bauer, who is about twice the size of him. So, again, there's hope here. Now, this is a role here that kind of gives you a little bit of hope if you want to play Adam Sard and if you want to play Jordan Boyd. This guy's big caper is he will protect you and he will keep working to allow you to go on the ground. Interesting game from Ollie, because we're going to speak about someone soon that he's been moved out for, who had the same issues young Oliver has had. But solid effort from Ollie.
Yeah. 5.6 for Ollie. Then we get to the middle of the ground, and it's Patrick Cripps. AFL rating of 13.6. Always finds that way. You talk about consistency. I think even when he's not at his absolute premium best, always finds a way to impact. But I thought he was pretty solid in this game, relatively speaking.
So these are real interesting. You can see here that the AFL ratings is going against his usual stats, and by Cripps' usual high standards, he wasn't as dominant as he would usually be. What is really interesting about our midfield is I just want you to think, as we're going through these midfielders, I want you to envision any team in the 18 teams would have our midfield and ruck stats. And then just say to yourself, would they have lost this game if they had that? And the answer will unanimously be no. If Cripps, Walsh, and TDK, their version, any other football club, were that dominant and found the ball that much, it would be game over. It would be game over for them. They would destroy the game. Now, with Cripps, he was negated quite a lot, even though he found a lot of ball by the Macintosh tag. Now, the Macintosh tag wasn't incredibly strong in the terms of output. What it did do, though, is it stopped Cripps going and ghosting out of stoppage and getting into dangerous areas. So Cripps was invariably, as you can see with the red, lots of ball in positions that Cripps can't impact the game. But, as you would expect, ground balls, very low. They managed to get him away from the stoppage quite a bit. But contested possessions through the roof, pressure acts in that normal range, score involvements again high, clearances again high. Everything you'd expect Cripps to do, he did well. Very clever coaching by Uze, though, to make sure that he got the ball in these areas where he couldn't give it off to anyone. So Cripps, unfortunately, was on his own. And a good score, but tough.
Yep. 7.3 for Patrick Cripps. Then we get to Sam Walsh. AFL rating 13.4. It's good to see him find his way back into the team. It was a very interesting injury in the sense of the length of time that it took to get him back out there, but they were obviously very conservative with him. Clearly will be better for the run. I hope that's not a stupid assumption, but I think Sam Walsh will be better for it. So what did the algorithm say about his game? Because this heat map is kind of what we've been looking for from him.
Yeah, so I want everyone to think that for a midfielder, if you get 25 touches and a goal, right, I would say the easiest positions in any data metric are the key position players, because they only have to do 6 or 7 things. And midfielders, disposals is king. Finding the ball should mean you have more chances to impact. And it's a fascinating one with Walsh because, as I said, if you gave Brisbane's midfield 32 touches, 25, 26, and then the ruck 28, they're winning every game they ever play by 40 points. And Carlton have lost 18th by 13. And Walsh here, it's quite interesting. You can see all the areas that we'd expect him to do well in. But again, notice the contested possessions. Walsh, incredibly high. And literally every other player that plays that secondary role to their big-bodied player, we'd expect this to be incredibly low. And it's kind of a mixed thing. Uncontested possessions don't make sense. The uncontested handball received in contested situations would target him. Walsh has got to find a way, and so has the coaches, of getting this guy loose. And again, this is a game, first game back, plenty of time. It worries me a little bit because you would expect, if you'd shown me these numbers pre-game, I would have said we would have won this game by about 30.
Yeah. So a 6 for Walsh.
And that's really bad. 25 touches and a goal for 6. That's really poor. That's really poor.
Not a good sign. Then we get to Adam Chera, and for those of you watching, you'll see the way it's been broken down. It's not so much in order of where they're selected. It's more so defenders, midfielders, forward. We'll get to the ruck and then the bench shortly. But Adam Chera, how'd you assess his game?
Well, you've only got to look here. So what is fascinating, the heat map, the bar graphs of Walsh and Chera could almost be the same player, to be honest. And that's, again, you wouldn't really see that at any other makeup of the team. Genuinely, there is like 4 or 5 independent roles. And again, we've got like 2 guys playing the same role, 2 guys playing the same role, 2 guys playing the same role, all in our midfield. And it's interesting because we're now converting Adam Sard into an incredibly strong defender, as opposed to what he was known for at Fremantle, which was this ball-using, classy player. Fascinating. And look where Chera is. It's almost operating the same guy, same area that Walsh was. Makes no sense. Like if you watch Butters and Rosie, Neil and Dunkley, they operate in 2 different time zones, but they work together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both of them, I thought both of their first halves were solid, pretty much most of them in that midfield group. And then just I'm still trying to figure out how we couldn't wrestle back momentum in game. Like it's all good accountability after the game and accountability is won and, you know, we've got to cop it and all of that. It's like, how many times are you going to listen to this rhetoric after a game and not see it addressed in game?
Well, I think the big thing is what you saw a team of individuals versus individuals trying to pretend to be a team. And
yeah,
the stats and the ratings are telling you Carlton's midfield worked as 5 individuals as opposed to a midfield unit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So at 5.9 for Adam Chera. We then get to George Hewitt with a really interesting heat map. I didn't notice him as, I mean, this is a George Hewitt trait. I don't notice him as much when I'm there at the game. And then when I watch the replay, I notice him much more. But what did you assess his game as?
There's a real interesting thing about this. When you have that many handball receives, which we look at other teams in the league, when your handball receives are above the AFL norm, we are expecting big things. We are expecting magic to happen. He had the most handball receives in our game. Now, if I name you the players that are handball receives of this, who are playing at the moment, Zach Merritt, Connor Rosie, Finn Callahan, Nick Dacos, Dan Houston, Josh Kelly. These are players that when you think about them, you're like, oh shit, if they get the ball, bother town, isn't it? Like all them names, they're getting handballs, you know you're in trouble. Do you think Brisbane go, George Huey's going to get the ball 30 times out in the open? We're in for a bit of a strife. They're not, are they? And that's no offense to him. He is there. So this is really painting a picture of 1, system, 2, player, because the players are intelligent. He shouldn't be in this situation. Walsh needs to be in that situation. He needs to be providing for Walsh. This game, we found Chera was providing for Hewitt at times, especially in the second half. Wouldn't make sense because, no offense to George, he is what he is. He ain't going to win you a game, though.
Yeah.
And this is it. He did the best he could do in his how the system panned out, really. But you look at his data there. Off the top of your head, you would imagine it's a very good game, wouldn't you? Just looking at the bar.
Yeah.
And this is what we're saying. Why I'm trying to put that education out there. Stats are great. No story behind it. Stats just the stats. If you actually think, did he impact the game? Because Taranto impacted the game. Did George Hewitt?
And so you see a 5.9 for George Hewitt. And then, you know, that's pretty much 3 6s in a row straight off the bat from Walsh, Chera, and Hewitt. Then we get to the next player, which is Cooper Lord, who was subbed out. Is that George Hewitt's heat map, or is that just they just happen to have the same heat map?
Let me just check. I think it might be actually a double up.
Okay.
It probably is. It is a double up, yeah. That's my bad.
Okay. No, all good.
New year, new problems. But as you can see, his data is correct just looking at it there. And you can see Cooper playing as the extra. So when you play as the extra, this should be quite an expansive role. And we actually found Cooper resorting to defending, which is worrying. Do you know what I mean? He was a big defender in this. Lots of pressure acts, lots of hardball gets. And it's fascinating that he didn't get the opportunity to kind of maybe play loose like other players do. And again, that's the same as the back line. Got Haynes, McGovern, all doing the same thing. And then Cowan's done it. Cooper, the same situation. Cripps, Hewitt, and Lord. Do you need all three? Isn't a POD a little bit better? And I don't think he got a chance to use his weapons, unfortunately, old Coops.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you make of the subbing? What was your reaction in the moment?
I thought the most obvious sub in the world was Carlton had no drive from the back half, and you sub one of your tall timber. I mean, I said at half time, is it chance to throw Mitch McGovern in the forward line? Because Jack was probably our best defender bar waitering, and sub someone, Hewitt or Lord, and put Doc at half back, get that drive, and then you shift it that way. I mean, it's fascinating though. I mean, it was way too late a sub when the momentum of the game had already gone one way for me. It felt like arrogance that we would get back into it. I genuinely felt in the fourth quarter, someone had said, it's all right, they'll tire out.
Right. So 4.9 here for Cooper Lord. Is this a scaled score because he was subbed, or this is what he earned whilst being the sub?
So what this does is it actually translates it down into the minutes. So the score you will see will be they can play 1,000 minutes or 1 minute. It just basically each player has a minute by minute average. Gotcha.
So 4.9 for Cooper Lord. Then we get to Blake Acres. AFL rating of 8.8. Yeah. Talk to me about Acres and his game.
Well, straight away, you can see the bar graph hates him. Do you know what I mean? Lots of blues in low, and the ones that are high are the ones that we would expect. So uncontested possessions, he's a wingman. He should be nowhere near a contest. So that's good. But then you look, disposals to turnovers, half as efficient as the AFL's top 20%. Pressure acts underneath that norm. The marks higher than the norm, but then the meters gained, not the score involvements, all these things not infinitely doing it. And then the inside 50s, the primary role of a winger, generating them scoring opportunities, getting the game moving forward. And then you look at his heat map. He hasn't seen a contest all day, and he's your primary winger. So then you've got to ask yourself, if this is Carl Amon, this is any winger in the league, Errol Goulden, they're going to hurt you. And unfortunately, he didn't.
Yeah. 5.3 for Blake Acres. Then we get to the young man in his first game for the club. It's been a long time coming, but Lucas Camporelli got himself into the side.
Oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear. I watched the GWS game and I see a young man that's the modern day winger, because I don't think Blake Acres is the modern day winger. Right? The modern day winger now is the most dynamic attacking threat.
Yeah.
And Blake Acres is a throwback to the 80s. Wingers can mark it a little bit. We keep flirting with tall wingers, but no one's playing tall wingers. Everyone's playing dynamic, changing wingers. And then you look, suddenly we have a guy again that is getting handballed in traffic, that is having to defend and be a defensive application. And it happened again. We saw a winger that was keeping his width suddenly being told to play the extra at the contest, to allow halfbacks to go up the forward, things like that. And this is the case here. Unfortunately, Lucas now is having the Ollie Holland syndrome of, I'm not really playing as a wing, am I?
Ugh.
It's
Bad
like
signs.
Richard there saying Akers is a damn good player. Would Sydney put him over Golden? Like, this is what I'm trying to get through to you. Let's not overrate who these players are. Let's tell you how it is. Lucas Camporelli should not be playing this position. Blake Akers should be. Lucas Camporelli should be the attacking wingman and getting that experience, because all first-year players don't defend. First-year players have fun, enjoy the game. Josh Dacos debut. D'Ambrosio, look at him now. It's crazy how Carlton are now saying to this guy, oh, you know what? Have a tackle on Tom Lynn. This guy tackled Nankervis. I don't think Errol Goulden has tackled a ruckman in his life, and he's one of the best players in the world. Crazy paving. Feel sorry for him. Like, put him on the wing and let him play football. See what he can do.
Yeah. He got a 4.5 for his game, young Lucas. Hopefully he gets to play in a win sooner rather than later. Then the Sam Doherty. I have a question about Sam Doherty and the Sam Doherty situation. He was deemed by the selection committee to be fit enough to play in a final 28 weeks after an ACL rupture. But he was not deemed fit enough to play a full game in round one after a full preseason. What am I missing?
Well, you're not missing anything, Terry. I mean, you're spot on. These are valid questions, but I mean, the setup of the team says to me that, in my honest opinion, they've underestimated Richmond a lot. And it's fascinating because Doc gave us a Doc game. Like, people are saying the data was really good and stuff like that. And you look at the data, this is mirrored for playing a whole game. You can see it's pretty good. AFL ratings doesn't do that. But Sam Doherty, where he played, makes no sense, in my opinion. Like, I didn't look at the midfield forward line needing this. The midfield, the defense needed some zip. So this is a fascinating case because, again, we always say this. Impact. Did Doc have impact? He came on as a sub, didn't do anything. Didn't win us the game. Like Skipper, 14 touches in a quarter. It didn't change the dynamic. I would concede, personally, should have started halfback. Carlton wanted to play speed and power, go quickly. But again, this one makes no sense because Doc can't play in the midfield, in my opinion.
Even when you've got a team that's different from last year because Kennedy's not rotating there, Jagger's obviously not there. That was the plan. Isn't there a need for another midfielder? I mean, Cooper Lord was subbed.
I'd say Carlton need to be a bit more dynamic in that area, yes. But, like, for me, why are we reinventing the wheel? Sixth oldest list in the competition. No one else is.
Yeah.
Like, Collingwood didn't last year think, oh, you know what? It didn't quite work, when we lost Nathan Murphy and playing Darcy Moore at fullback and then trying to find someone to play a halfback. They just went out and bought a halfback, Terry. Just went out and bought Dan Houston. Like normal football clubs do, as opposed to Carlton who going, you know what? Wouldn't it be great if we had a point of difference in the midfield? Maybe a third tall to help forward and back. No, I've got an idea. Let's buy Nick Haynes, who's basically an older version of McGovern, and then hope that works as a key position player. But then also take Jack Silvani out of the forward line and play him back as well. Oh, shit, we've now got no forwards. Let's put Brodie Kemp back there because that didn't work the first time. And then let's just put Doc in the midfield. What's going on? We've been serious, really. Or is it just like, can't we delist players anymore? Like, is there some rule? Like, just no. This isn't a knock on Doc as well. It's more of a knock on what's the point.
It's a fair point. It's a fair question.
Like, why? Like, Doc's having a 5.5 and he was an All-Australian 3 years ago. Are we being serious?
Yeah. It was a while ago. It was.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but like halfback is the easiest position to play for old players.
Yeah.
Like Scott Pendlebury spent 5 games there as he was getting old last year. Like, tell me he can't. Ollie Hollands can't stay on the wing.
See what they do this week. It's going to be an interesting one. Do you think he'll be the sub again, or do you think they'll start him?
Oh, definitely not. No, because they need vibes, bro. So, like, so Michael Voss Wednesday, Thursday is going to tell me about the time he knocked on the door and said, "I'm coming back after an ACL," and Voss had a cry. He has to tell me that story, mate. So let's be honest.
Yeah, true. Well, 5.5 for Sam Doherty. Then we go to Tom De Koning, who had crazy numbers, and you made a reference to something earlier about numbers and the context and the story. I mean, it looked like the game from Tom that I think a lot of us thought this is the kind of output we're going to get all year. This is the elevation. How did you rate him?
Look, new year, new me. I'm here to win. I ain't here to be nice anymore, right? And I'm just saying this is no knock on De Koning's game, because a very good game. A very good game. But I'm telling you right now, name me a club in football today that's ruckman has 510 metres gained, 28 touches, with midfielders having 30, and doesn't win the game. Like, the engine room has hummed. Like, if you gave Max Gorn, Oliver and Petrarca this numbers, they're tearing the game apart.
It's such a good point.
I mean,
so it's like vanity. It's like their vanity stats.
Well, it alludes to two things. Either the players are incredibly selfish and they're all about themselves, or maybe more likely everything is set up for these guys to excel in areas that no one cares about, because these numbers were good, but let's be honest, Nankervis was the better ruckman all day. And it's not even close. Who impacted the game more? I'll give you a clue. They sung their song when the final siren went.
Yeah.
It makes me sad, man, because I tell you what, if you told me at the start of this game, Dan, Cripps will dominate clearances, TDK will have nearly 30 touches, Walsh will have 25 and a goal, Shearer will have 25, I would have said 70-point win. Like, you and me are going to be drinking champagne and going, lids off. But I'm here at just under 20-point loss. What, 13-point loss?
Yeah, after being up 41.
Someone having a laugh. We've won 2 games in 10. They were against 17th and 18th. And I'm here being told, oh, TDK is the best ruckman in the league. Is he? I'd rather have him half the stats and we win the game, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Is this one of those situations where we want the one ruck system because we just want to see a superstar stat line?
No, because I don't think the ruck was the problem, Terry. Like,
so I think the other part,
like,
the other part of the question. Yeah, go.
I was going to say, if you ask me, like, how do you fix this? Like, for me, first things first, hit targets, do the simple things well. Like, you did it in the first quarter when Richmond were waving the white flag, but the minute they put the pressure on, I said it on the Pies on the Richmond podcast, I wouldn't be scared of Carlton, because you'll ask us the question, invariably we'll give you an answer of how to beat us. And it was almost like clockwork. The short handball stopped, the kicking stopped. TDK was the biggest culprit of this in the second half, of taking the ball instead of handballing it after he beats a man, just a big dynamite mortar fire into the forward 50. Do you know what I mean? Like, all the stats that they usually get excited about, Carlton won. Do you know what I mean? Like, the inside 50 count. But from the second half, Carlton had 4 inside 50s that were in the hot zone. It's embarrassing, bro.
Yeah. So for Tom, It's a 7 for his game. Then we get to Matty Cottrell, who had an AFL rating of 7.5, played very deep, probably more deep than I've ever seen him play.
Right, if someone can explain this to me as if I'm 3, but you've got a guy that has an elite engine,
Yeah.
and you're playing the guy who's basically a pseudo small foot. Like, someone explain that to me. Someone explain that to me. Like, pretend I'm 5, actually.
Just make it make sense, you know?
Yeah, and you know what, right? People are probably going to get on his case, but I didn't really hate Matt Cottrell's game because you know what? He tackled inside 50. Like he did the basics. He got involved in scoring. Few times he burnt players, but you know what? I don't mind forwards being a bit selfish because sometimes I feel like we give it off too much. But genuinely, like this felt like to me, Michael Voss saying to me, Ashton Moyer's not ready. I'm playing Cottrell. Elijah's not ready. I'm playing Cottrell. It felt like that, where is it the right person for the job or is it the biggest name for the job?
Yeah. Lots of unknowns. The Ashton Moyer question is going to be a very popular one this week. I mean, the reality is Ashton Moyer was not even he wasn't even an emergency. So clearly a decision's been made, something's happened, if it's form or whatever, something is not being met from whatever they're looking for. Because I think the coaches want Ashton Moyer to be playing. So I'm reading comments, not just here, but even on other platforms. And it's almost like it's being insinuated that the coaches are holding Ashton Moyer back, even though he's ready to play. Which
Terry, I watched the VFL. He was absolutely bobbins, bro.
Yeah. So I think we've got to be careful of, we've just got to be careful of, Ashton didn't play. I didn't watch him play in the VFL, but Ashton should be playing. It's like, well, why didn't he play? You've got to, we've got to be careful not to just throw out the name that didn't play because we didn't see him play. And just assume that the coaches are sabotaging the kids.
Yeah, and you're going to see me get even more angry in a minute because you're going to see how the other small forwards play. And then someone's going to have to explain to me again why he didn't get their job when that involved running.
Mm.
So get ready for that. Stay tuned, kids. Tom has questions.
For Owies, it's a 5.9. Let's
for
get
Owies?
Through. Sorry, for Owies. For Cottrell, it's 5.9. Oh, I miss Owies. Oh. Okay, then we get to Lockie. Yeah. Then we get to Lockie Fogarty. I guess he did. He was named in the forward line, but we now know that the smaller forwards are rotating through the midfield, and that's what his heat map suggests here.
Look, when Durden used to come on this show and he used to be playing, we used to complain about he was up the ground and is this a problem with Durden? And since then, we've seen Fogarty, we've seen Potlop, we have literally seen every small forward, even Evans. One of my mates is a massive port man. He texted me and said, "Are you taking the piss with Evans? This guy's ran more in 2 quarters than I've seen him run for 2 years for us." And why is our best pressure defending forward halfway up the ground, Terry? Why is Harry starting in 6-6-6 at half forward on the left-hand side and I've got Motlop in the goal square? Like, is someone winding me up now? Like, honestly, have we given up, Terry, is my question. Have we given up?
I genuinely wish I had the answers for you, mate.
Like, Alex Neil-Bullen today is probably he's Audi version of Neil-Bullen. Neil-Bullen doesn't get on the wing. Neil-Bullen's at the fall of the ball, and if anyone dares come out of there. So, yeah, look at his numbers. Absolutely appalling. Let's be honest, I can't even say it. And this isn't his fault. Usually I would have a go. I'm not having a go at him because high ball entries and spending half your time on the wing, what's he meant to do?
Yeah. He gets a 3.7 for his game. How do you even for our players, particularly our small forwards, how does the algorithm even connect them to what the rest of the league does? Because it feels like we're the only ones that play our small forward like this.
Because what the algorithm's telling you is how it should be done. So it's saying if you want to be a good side, this is what we're looking at. Like, look, 0. I mean, this is the one that scares me. The inside 50s was 0, and he played halfway up the ground.
Yep.
Like, that makes no sense because today I saw Rochelle kind of have this Fogarty role, was creating chances. So it's like, what was he doing? Like, you're telling me that we deemed Richmond so much of a threat, we needed an extra defensive midfielder when we already had Hewitt and Cripps and Lords. Is this a wind-up? If 18th needs 4 tackles, what the fuck does Brisbane need? 18? We're going to have 18 defensive midfielders against Brisbane, are we? Make it stop.
All right. 3.7 for Fog. And then we get to Jesse. Yeah. I don't know, man. Looked really good in that preseason. Didn't seem to have the same force or balance that I saw in the preseason. Maybe it is just one game, but how did you rate Jesse's game?
So we take the top 20% small forwards, right, in the AFL.
Yep.
This is where we start to get excited. The amount of crumbs he found right in the top 20%. The amount of goal assists where we expect. So he's been giving it off. Then we look at the real, like nitty gritty, right? So when they're good, you're asking yourself, no goals, no tackles inside 50, no shots. The score involvement's half of anyone else. It screams, I'm just waiting to be fed the goals. And you watch Rankine, you watch Rochelle today, then you watch Charlie Cameron, you watch Papley in that fourth quarter against Sydney. He's going out there actively saying, I'm going to win this game. He's almost overriding Amati as the senior forward. He's like, this is my forward line. My big thing with Jesse is go out there, bro, and take it. Take it. Ignore everything. Shoot on sight. Have fun out there. Because at the moment, you look at that heat map, he's in the right areas. We saw it against St Kilda. He was firing on sight. Then the bright lights Thursday night come. And this guy is just, he's doing cardio, bro, at times. Cardio.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. The forward entries aren't small forward friendly. You can put Toby Green, Charlie Cameron, and Papley in that forward line. And them forward line, you're never going to kick 2 or 3 when it's been bombed in. It's not small forwards fodder. But it's showing me that you're in and around it. The output's appalling, though.
Yeah. So we get to 3.8, Jesse. And yeah, it's not looking good for this forward line. It's the trend of red has been, I think, 2 or 3 or 4 players in a row, almost. Then we get to Zach Williams, who I thought started looking super sharp early in this game. And then much like the rest of his team, just fell away. Now I see this heat map, and I don't think he played forward. What I thought he did.
So if you look, so what the heat map does always helps you out. Is it's telling you the heat of where he found the ball. So
right,
it is always deceptive because you might look at this heat map and go, oh, okay, he found the ball in the midfield. He didn't play, but he did play 68% in the forward line. So he did spend a lot of time there, Terry. And again, see what I said about Motlop, right? If he's a midfielder now, okay, but the score involvements were good. The goals were good. But then look at this. The creativity of a man of his ability, little inside 50s, and he's a good kick of the football, little lead-up marks, things like that. It's a nothing game, Terry. Again, and we use our players like this at times. Do you know what I mean? We use our players like this at times. It's kind of this is the archetypical Orazio Fantasia game. He was literally Orazio 2.0. And the guy's meant to be, he's on a lot of money. because we thought he was a midfielder when he never was.
It's interesting because I think there's 3 players that played on Thursday that were going to help fill the Orazio role, and Zach Williams was not one of them. But now it looks like he was playing.
You know what shits me is I implore everyone after this, don't do anything tonight until 8 o'clock and just go and watch the Indigenous All-Stars first half.
Mm.
Zach Williams looks like he's on a different planet to what he is at Carlton. He's right at the fall of the forwards. He's getting involved. He's waiting for that moment. Then he comes and plays for Carlton. It's almost like someone's told him he's bloody Lockie Neal.
Yeah.
Have a word.
So a 4 for Zach Williams. Then we get to Francis Evans, who also made his debut for the club on Thursday night. What do you think of his debut?
Genuinely not great, because, if this was 2018, I'd be really excited because he was game, he was exciting, he was chasing hard. He wasn't getting any results, but he was chasing hard. He looked like he was up and about. He was up for the fight. And if he was 18 years old, I'd be having a different conversation, Terry. I'd be like, there's hope. But again, he's the most experienced player, really, list-wise, bar Zach Williams as a small forward. And it's obvious to me, Voss has told him, we need you to, our team defence is 18 men behind the ball at all times. So when we did wrestle the ball back, Harry was 1-on-4 and the Smalls were all there to just mop it up when there was no marking contest. Now Smalls are in the midfield. It's almost embarrassing at times, Terry. And he was guilty a few times of the ball could have gone out of bounds for a boundary throw and a stoppage, and he just waited to see if it would go over. You've got to make sure. So, not impressed, to be honest, Terry. But
that's fair. A 3 for Francis Evans. Then we get to Brodie Kemp. Played in this forward role. This is something that, to be fair to him, will still need some time for him to adjust to it. But I don't know how it looked on Thursday.
It was a difficult one. One. I think this is the biggest role at the football club. There is no...
Yeah.
There's no Kerno. And I think there's an opportunity there with no Jack Martin that we need a third. And what was really, really bizarre watching this is at times he was just not even involved. You watch Bauer and you watch Lynch and how they work and they're trying to lead and dummy lead. I don't think I've ever seen Charlie Kerno, Brodie Kemp or Harry dummy lead. Just lead to a pocket of space to pull someone off. They wait. Both Newman, both Mackay and Kemp do this thing. They wait, see the ball come in, lead up at the same time. But you watch all of the forward lines, they're actively leading already before the ball's kicked, and you kick to their lead. It was hard to watch because when Jack went forward, he kicked a goal within 12 seconds because Jack's smart. Jack leads. Jack screams. Jack calls for it.
What did Kemp get for his rating? Slide 45 is not in this list.
2.9.
2.9 for Brodie Kemp. Oh, Harry.
So Carlton have got 4 tolls down back. You've got Cripps in the ruck. TDK needs a rest every so often. And in the game there, they gave you a masterclass. 1 toll, bully him. And this guy here spent the first half, and I think it was quite a good thing. In the first half, the young lad went off him. Do you know what I mean? Because he got injured. And he was giving him a bath at that stage in the game. And then Ben Miller got his hands on him. And Ben Miller took him to town. And I said this in the in the preview with the Richmond boys. Jacob Blight on Mackay, I think it's really a good matchup because Blight's game, he likes to get in front. At no point did he look to bully. You look at, I hate Tom Lynch, but look how he plays, physical. He was going for Carlton, saying,
presence, man. There's a will to compete. And
And
it's just so frustrating watching him play at times.
Harry should have been looking at that game and gone, Ben Miller, less than 20 games as a full-time key defender. Jacob Blight, less than 5 games. How many? How many is it today? And, I was waiting for that in the fourth quarter from Cripps, from Walsh, from Wheatering, from Harry, looking at these senior figures of this football club who say, right, okay, we're under the cosh at the minute. Do you remember Jack Rewalt, 2020, when Carlton hit the lead in the third quarter? And he looked visibly pissed with his midfield. And then he kicked 4 goals in a quarter and they won. I was waiting for that moment from us going, hang about, we're getting beaten up by kids. Kick it to me and I'll get us out of this shit. And then we'll have an argument at the end of the game. Harry here, it was a worry because I felt like he gained some form in pre-season. Like, there was no will to compete.
It all looked so perfectly set up for him. And maybe I'm getting more frustrated at his performance because of my expectation on him. But I thought, he'd done the full preseason. That's a big marker that you look at. Looked really solid the way he was moving in the preseason matches, even though he didn't play a lot. He was managed. He's had a little bit more continuity. He's had a challenge in his career where he had the yips and he fixed it and he went back and he sort of overcame it last year. And Charlie's not there. It was all set up for him. He's playing against an inexperienced, less experienced defenders than what he normally would. It's like, mate, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? Is he okay? Like, was he fit to play? And then I've realized I've seen Harry do this before. I've seen him have games like this before where there's just that question mark around, mate, you weren't really engaged to really be physical or play with the force. And now I'm just left questioning, like, mate, what's happened? What's going on? I don't want to overreact because it is the first game of the season, and I'm sure he's going to respond. But like, how does it even get to that point on Thursday night with him? Like, how?
Terry, to win a flag and tone not required makes a great call. Numbers are inconsequential, its impact. And Richmond used to beat us when we were babies because of one thing. And that was their will and determination, their experience. Even though how hard we tried, how smart we thought we were, ultimately they had bigger name players. And you know what people used to say to me? It's all right, Dan. One day Walsh will be a big boy. One day TDK will be a big boy. One day Harry will be a big boy. And now they are fucking big boys. And you know what? If anything, they were more limp and pathetic than they were then. And they were quite limp and pathetic then. And at this stage, we're talking big boy things, Terry. Talking top
he's on a
four.
max contract. He's on a max contract. He's
top
28,
four.
27.
And I don't care what people say. It's one game, don't spit the... One game becomes 2 games. 2 games becomes 4 games. 4 games becomes 2 years ago when the guy couldn't hit over a jam tin. That's what happens if you don't sort it out now. That is a blight on the game that a key forward can impact. And you know what? I don't speak for Harry. He didn't even look like he fucking wanted to half the time.
It was like a job.
Half the time, he looked disinterested. He didn't even look annoyed when people missed his kick. Where in St Kilda, I saw him bollock Cripps for mishitting him when he kicked 2 in 2 seconds. So you're talking practice match. He was up for the fight. Against Richmond, he wasn't. Joking? Big time? It's okay.
He's got to turn
tired
that
of being
around.
8th, Terry. 8th ain't successful with me.
A 4 for Harry Mackay.
And that is Harry's lowest rating ever. Under this new system, you'd have to go back to his debut years. His debut years, Taz. His debut. Do you know what I mean? He was ranked. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Do you know, he literally lost one-on-one contests. You know, he's number 1. He's won wood. One-on-ones. He only won 1 of them all night. And it's all right, people say, oh, the kicking was shit. The kicking's always shit. He kicks 50 from that.
Yeah.
He was shit. How's that?
He's got to sort it
He
out,
was
man.
shit.
He's so much better. I think he is. He's so much better than that. So that's the Carlton team. Thank goodness. Let's start talking about real performances on Thursday night. How about the Tigs, mate? How about some of these Tigers? For context, Toby Nankervis.
So a man that people say doesn't run. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't run. Doesn't move around the ground. TDK. You can see here some massive differences. One of the first noticeable differences is the bottom numbers pressure acts. Ground ball gets. This guy was helping his midfield being outgunned by a superior contested side. So that's where the difference is, where TDK was getting the sexy football. Nankervis was at the furnace saying, it's all right, lads. I'll help you out. I'll take a body. And part of McIntosh's success was he actually doubled up with Nankervis. Nankervis was the physicality behind McIntosh's smarts to know where Cripps led. And you saw quite often Nankervis would give up on TDK and focus on trying to shuttle Cripps backwards a little bit and create separation from Walsh and Hewitt. And they did that spectacularly. And Nankervis, masterclass. This is coaching 101 and intelligence 101 from them. Because I said it in the preview, TDK needs to learn that it's now time to stop playing one-on-one with Ruckman, playing to your strengths. Nankervis gave him a lesson in, you might get your 30 touches, but I'm going to have it and play it the way I want to. And ultimately, only one dog wins a dog fight, and it's the biggest dog. Nankervis is the big dog.
So we're going to show you a few Richmond players, 3 of them. Then I can see in the queue of slides here, the Carlton team. I'm really looking forward to having a look at that in its totality. So for Nank, 7.8.
And next again, see more points than TDK because of impact. Impact.
The next player. So basically, you've obviously selected three or four players from the opposition who hurt us the most. Is that what you've done?
We've selected 3 players that are punishing that were in battlegrounds they should have lost.
Right.
And reasons why.
So Jack Ross.
So Jack Ross, very interesting here because we look at this type of role, right? And this was a very clever role. Absolutely brilliant. There was a man that was charged with slowing Carlton down in the second quarter, and they went to this gentleman. This gentleman here, if you watch him in the second and third quarter, arguably one of the best quarters you'll see from a player who would sacrifice his game. He was looking to take that short kick, slow that short kick down, make Carlton kick long. And you look here, the pressure acts, right? The contested ball, the ground ball. He was waiting for every time Carlton went long, he was there winning that ball. And a wily little customer, and one that won't get the respect, but he was fantastic at what he did. Great game. One of the great delights. Alex Chincotta will have watched that game and went, wish I could be used like that. That'd be grouse. Looks fun that. I can stop someone and have fun.
So a 7.4. And then the final opposition player was Ben Miller. So I'm guessing he's here because of his job on Harry Mackay.
Yeah, so Jacob Blight did that job, and he at the first half, this guy was on Mackay. First half, it was Blight on Mackay. This guy was on Kemp, which I thought was the natural matchup. Blight is a lot more mobile. When I saw Jacob Blight go down in ice, I was like, okay, this could be interesting because this is a big guy who isn't as mobile. And Miller's intelligence to engage Harry. And you know what made me sick? In the third quarter, I'm seeing Tom Lynch force Wheater in deep. Ben Miller's forcing Harry up the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it was the opposite. Ben Miller was imposing on Harry. He was standing further up the ground at fullback, making Harry follow him. Harry didn't go to the goal square. And it was a fascinating chain of events. And I thought Ben Miller, look at the intercept possessions, played on Harry, took him up the ground, and then attack that ball. Attack that ball. You look at the intercept marks, the intercept possessions, and then only lost one-on-one contest all game. Phenomenal. Like, phenomenal. Yeah. Like, this was a mismatch on paper, and Ben Miller, heavyweight champion of the world, baby.
Well done, Ben Miller. Okay, it's time to have a look at the Carlton team, the whole picture. Ugh. Oh, man. Oh, it's so bad, man. Oh, it's so bad. It's the worst we've ever seen, right?
Yeah, the only one that can really put his hands up and be smiled is Cowan. Do you know what I mean? Playing the fourth defender, it's pretty. I mean, Saab, disgraceful. 2 intercept defenders in red against the bottom side.
Oh, man.
Horrible.
It's
then
so
you look
bad,
at that.
dude.
Do you know what I mean? And then you look at the forward line. Fogarty, Motlop, Williams, Evans, Kent, Mackay. And then look at that midfield. That midfield, bro, that midfield. Like, everyone harps on about that midfield. That middle line, behave.
It's so bad, man. Oh.
And this is a collective effort. Like, this is probably one of the first losses that I've watched the game and gone, tactically horrible, attitude, application horrible, impact just shocking. At times it felt like this reminded me, if you ever watched the last carnival of drafts, that's how they play. It's almost like the guys who were top 10 are like, I don't care anymore. Who cares? Vic Metro, no one gives a shit. I'm going out in a blaze of glory. I'm going to be pick one. That was the impression I got, aside from Cripps, JSOS. It felt like a lot of that midfield, TDK especially, it felt like, I'm going top 10. I don't have to be with you scrubs next year. This is me time now, baby. I'm not going to pass. I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to get some big, juicy numbers. Oh.
Yeah, man. Surely it can't get worse than this.
Well, I mean, look, what holds us back from the top sides in this competition is our high and our low. There's a massive gap. Massive gap, our high and low. So you know that the highs will come back one day, someday soon. These guys will probably all play at the same time. But this was a how not to win football games. Like, I mean, let's look at it this way. Matt Cottrell was the biggest runner on the ground, 15.7 Ks, and his starting position was small forward. And you wonder why we lost. Yeah, I mean, Tom Papley hasn't run 15.7 Ks ever. Like, you know, there was a comment earlier, someone saying, oh, he hasn't got an engine, he didn't have pre-season. Intrinsic fitness doesn't die. Do you know what I mean? Like, 15.7 Ks at pace. Ollie Hollands used to do that on the wing. What's going on? It was underprepared, malnourished, and then at the end of the game, what do you have? You have JSOS looking like he's in a hostage video, and you can see he didn't mean what he said when he goes, it's all right, though, we've got 22 weeks to go to fix it. You know he doesn't mean that. Then you've got Voss saying, it's all right, lads, not going to sugarcoat it. 12 minutes, 9 seconds of him sugarcoating it.
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. I won't sugarcoat it. Preceded by a whole
then, as
press
usual,
conference.
Then, as usual, the coward mentality doesn't happen on the field and off the field. It also happens. Media teams say, let's have a big members day. Better not go because people might shout at me. Do you know what I mean? So we'll cancel that. Like, no accountability, no putting your head up on the pulpit. Richmond used to beat us in this fixture when we played like Richmond did because they were willing to put their head on the line and be wrong. You just saw 23 men, a whole team of coaching staff. You got the sports psychologist sat on the bench, Terry, looking completely biscuit-arsed and confused. Like, her face throughout that game, I was thinking, can you imagine if I'm shitting myself and you're the woman who tells me not to shit myself? You look lost as well. She was checking her phone at pit stages as well. No wonder we lost this game, because the attitude from top to bottom is near enough. And 8th was near enough last year. 1 game off finals, near enough, Pop. Near enough. Now's the time to get serious. They're not children anymore. I speak to my kids way worse than I'm speaking to the players now. Disgraceful, disgusting. Don't care if it's one off. That is a disgrace, not just to the Guernsey, to the entire suburb of Carlton. A disgrace, and should never, ever happen 9 years into a rebuild at all. Unforgivable.
Yeah. Player of the game was Jacob Wiedering. We've touched on him a little bit earlier. Yep. Well done.
Key defender, best player on a team that was $1.17 to finish bottom.
Yeah. Just beautiful. Really beautiful. The main riser was Jack Silvani. So this basically is the one that had the highest score based on what they were projected to get. Is that right?
Yeah, so Jack was predicted to have a 6.4. So the algorithm does like him down the back, but it figured he was going to have quite a quiet day. So very, very well done, Jack. Great game.
Yep. And then finally, the Horizon Finance 1%er. What is this? This is new.
So Horizon Finance, Nick Horsburgh, he's a finance specialist. He's got his own award. So this is the guy that makes the most 1%ers, the invariables, the things we get forgotten about. And Jack Silvani is staggering 9 of them, working his ass off for the team. This is what Jack is good. Jack is good at doing this. And you saw, you know what? Big shout out to Jack as well, because that second half, we only kicked, 2 goals, was it, Terry? 3?
Yeah.
But the only one I saw ruffle people's hair when they spoiled the ball over the line, which Nick Haynes and Wiedering didn't do for the triple backflip goal. He was there celebrating that. And you know, when he kicked his goal, that fucking meant something to him. So,
Correct,
you know what? I'm big on romance, and I say I don't like it. That's the kind of romance I want. Someone who actually cares. You saw that goal meant something to him, and he was trying to fire the boys up. And unfortunately, 21 men look at him and said, Jack, we get paid tomorrow, buddy. What are you on about?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's no consequence.
22 Jack Silvanis, we would have run by 40 points.
Yep. So we start the season off with a terrible loss. And you just, where do you sit on the fence of it was just a bad night and it's going to get better from here and they'll need to settle into the year, or this is a sign of things to come?
I've heard this for 9 years, Terry. Like every nuffy says it's just one game. But the problem is it's always one game. And as we've got better, it's now just a game in a block of 5 games. And that's why we're not at the heights. Because Brisbane will have this moment and then they'll not have another moment for another year. We will have this moment. Let's just say we beat Hawthorn. Let's just say we go 4-2 through the first. You know that this game, though, will come back in that next 6 games. And that next 6 games. And then ultimately be in a final. And this is intensity application, Terry. The application is so few and far between. As soon as I saw people spit on the players as they left the game, I already knew what was going to happen, that the narrative now is going to be, oh, you can't be mean to us. And it's a minority. It was like
wait. People actually spat on the players? Is that confirmed?
You know, the anger, the spit, when they get over the thing, like in the Essendon.
Oh,
I don't know if they spat.
No, there's a difference between spitting and like shouting and then,
You know what I mean? I already knew the narrative is going to be then already played for them. Please don't be mean to us. Stronger together. It's 10 people over the gantry calling you wankers. I've seen 200,000 people angry because they want you to win. They care for you. They love you.
Yeah.
That's the problem, Terry. Like, honestly.
It's interesting because, they want to activate the passion of the fans when it's going well, but you don't want to have a bar of the passion of the fans when it's not going well. That whole cancelling the membership day on SEN, you had an opportunity to do something that you've never done before. Get on SEN, say you sign up for a membership right now, you can call up right now, and we'll have a chat about what happened last night, and apologize. Justin Longmuir said, it's on me. I didn't prepare the players well enough for the game against Geelong. Like, why don't we hear that rhetoric from Carlton? Why not?
Terry, the only time you ever see any fight and pushback is if you ever speak to anyone on the club and tell the truth. That's the only time. Do you know what I mean? When they've got to defend each other because everyone else gets paid. That's the only time they truly care. Do you know what I mean?
Ego, the fucking ego of the joint.
Ego's not your amigo, as they say. And unfortunately, we saw that. And hopefully he does it. But you know what? I do want to take this moment just to thank Richmond. Like, you know, they came out and they said the anchors and the pillars of their club are effort, intensity, second efforts. Nathan Broad said our game plan's simple. It's tackle, 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 because it's our DNA. But his words, a first-year player, a 20-year player, and someone in the crowd could put the Guernsey on and replicate that because it's simple stuff. And there it is. We're still talking about learnings, aren't we? 6 years in, and Richmond have just said, we don't have to teach you how to tackle, how to care, because you fucking should do. And that's the difference between the two sides. One side is about it. The other side talks about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll tell you who won't be cancelling membership day or any of their shows because it's too hard, and that's us. So thank you very much to all of you for being here for the ratings. Pom, thank you very much for putting together the stats and what you do. Thank you very much to Nick from Horizon Finance Group. Those of you who have Instagram, on the way out, please, after this show ends, click the link in the live chat. That is Horizon Finance Group on Instagram. Give them a follow. They're back on board for another year of support. None of this ever gets cancelled. We talk about everything, win, lose, or draw. And that's the way it has to be. 7 p.m. tonight, the Almost Blues brothers will be on. And then, tomorrow starts a new week. We'll do the Blue Abroad show and get back into it. And it's unfortunate, but it's also just, this is what we do, Pom. I was mad, so mad. And then we hit live on this show. And then I felt calm. And then we got to Harry. And then I got mad again.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you've all wrote me into doing it. So this is it. I'm already can't wait just to go back to October and just talk about EPL. So I'm looking forward to that. Already ticking the days down, but we go again, don't we, next week? We'll be back. Can't wait.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you have a great evening. If we see you at 7 p.m. for the Almost Blues brothers, great. If not, go to Pommy and Oz. You got a show tonight?
I have got a lovely Marnie. We'll be recapping the year, having a lot of fun games. She's built it up as well, this game. She's called me her best friend. So, I mean, there's no pressure, Pom.
Okay. All right. Have a great one, guys. Take it easy. Go Blues. Come on.
Go Blues.
Go Blues. Come on.